Okay. So, hello and welcome to Dialect. We'll be playing a scenario that I wrote called The Children of No God, which is basically about non-believers of any or various kinds, be them atheists, agnostics, secularists, humanists, in a society dominated by religion. And before we get started, I just wanted to go over the safety tools that we'll be using. This isn't an official Gauntlet game since we kind of organized off the calendar, but I still want to just be sure that we're following the Gauntlet's inclusivity policy. And like most games, we'll be using the X card. So if you ever feel uncomfortable, feel free to use it. Since we're toggling back kind of between the Roll20 and the Google Hangouts, I would say kind of say like X or X card to make sure that I hear it so that I don't miss it. Because you can type it or like put your arms up in an X, but I just don't want to be looking at the Roll20 and not see that you did it. So just make sure to tell me, and then we can just rewind and move in a different direction. I may ask a clarification question, but we'll just move past it. And then I also want to use the open door policy. So at any time, if you don't feel like you want to play anymore, you can feel free to drop out. Just make sure to let me know so that we don't worry about you. And then I wanted to go over lines and veils for everybody. So I think most of you are familiar with this, but maybe some aren't. So this is basically like content that we want to avoid. So a line would be something that's a hard no that we would not include at all. And a veil is something that's like a cut to black, or maybe it could happen off screen, or it could be something that happened in the past that we allude to. So for example, for a veil, I usually have sexual assault. So that's my veil, and I just wanted to open it up and see if anybody had any other lines or veils.
I would prefer if sexual violence was kind of like a line.
Okay.
A veil. But other than that, I don't have any.
Anybody else have thoughts? And also, like, even if you don't, even if we don't bring it up now, if it, like I said, if at any point you feel uncomfortable with something, just X card it. It's no problem. We'll just move on, and we can always just add it to the lines and veils and just skip past it for the rest of the game. Just because of the nature of the scenario, you know, there will be religiously based, or I guess absence of religious discrimination, and we may reference like historical examples of that. And I know that can be like hard for some people to deal with, so just that's going to be something we'll talk about. If you feel really uncomfortable, just X card, and we'll try and find a way to kind of just go around it. Okay, so I just want to ask, have any of you played Dialect before?
I have. I played it once, and then I've run it, I think, twice since then. So I've kind of gotten to play, I think, 3 of the different, the main scenarios, like of the 4 main ones that they have in the book. Like I've only explored those. I didn't get to look at any of the contributed ones, or you know, haven't played in like a custom one or anything like that.
I've played it before. I did the boarding school thing, and then I did half of one of the in the book, the standard scenarios. I think Tomer was in this.
I've never played. I'm pretty sure I can pick it up fairly quickly. I am familiar with these types of games, so I think we'll be okay.
It's a pretty easy game mechanically. So I'm not super worried. So I'm just going to go through kind of like the introduction for the game. And also, before we start, I want to say, like we were talking about, like in the chat about speaking other languages. I know, Sabine, you speak German. Mikhail, you speak Norwegian. Feel free to like draw in your native language for stuff. I think that would be really cool. I'm a linguist and may use linguistic jargon. If you don't understand, just tell me and I will either stop using it or just explain it. Okay, so this is a game about language. Do you recall your first words? They were something simple or silly, no doubt. You were probably toothy and drooling and most definitely loud. Even if you don't remember, you surely said them. The act of saying something, anything, may seem so humble and small, and yet it's quite extraordinary. By speaking and developing language, we're exercising something big, something fundamental to being human. This seed is in each of us, a profound spark that separates us as a species and drives a line between humans, animals, and robots, for now at least. From your first words, you are anchoring your connection to the world and your place in it. Language is the logic of your internal clockwork. It's how your brain organizes information and how you convey yourself to others. It is your innately endowed technology. And because it's so utterly human, the markers for your culture and identity are embedded within it. This is a game about language. Language tells a story. Woven into the way we speak, we reveal what we care about, where we come from, and who we are. It changes as we change. More than ever, we now stand at a critical juncture. Far beyond the natural pace of change, the world is losing languages at an alarming rate. They are being lost to the mundane, everyday pressures of money, violence, social prestige, climate change, and free community. As global communication connects us, it also risks compromising our cultural core. Right now, almost 10% of languages on Earth have fewer than 10 speakers. In embracing what brings us together, we threaten to erase what makes us special. What happens when a language is lost? The world takes another step towards sameness and we lose a shade of humanity. This may seem inevitable as we hurtle headlong into the singularity, but it is far from it. In order to fight this future, we must fight to understand it. This is a game about language, how it dies. So in Dialect, we'll follow an isolated community through its beginning, rise, and end. We'll tell their story by building their language. New words will come from the fundamental aspects of the community, who they are, what they believe in, and how they respond to a changing world. Together we will decide what they become. So I'll kind of go over the different phases as we go. But the first thing that we do is we're creating the isolation, this community that we'll be playing. So we pick a backdrop, which I've done for us. This is the backdrop that I've written. And first we'll be generating aspects. So the aspects are like these really defining characteristics of the community. And on the Roll20, we'll write them on those note cards kind of that are off in the top left-hand corner. And so I don't know if any of you have had a chance to look at the aspect generation questions, but our aspect generation questions are a different doctrine. What do we believe? What sort of beliefs separate us from the religious masses? Sacred space. What space provides sanctuary for our wayward group? And a free aspect. So we just get to choose. So before we jump into creating the aspects, I just wanted to have you guys read the little description at the top. I don't know if you could pull up that description I sent you. It's the part that starts, everyone believes in some God or gods here except for us. So I just want us to go around and like everybody read one sentence until we get to the end. So I guess Tomer, if we could start with you.
Sure. Do you want to do sentences or just sentences, right?
Yeah, because there's not enough paragraphs for all of us. So
Sure. Everyone believes in some god or gods here, except for us.
Sabine.
We've banded together against the religious hegemony. Hegemony? What? I don't know the pronunciation actually.
Hegemony is like.
Okay, hegemony. I know what it is, but I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, sorry. Mikhail?
We are the non-believers, the atheists, the agnostics, the humanists, the secularists, the non-theists, the rationalists, the free thinkers.
Jean?
Maybe our beliefs are the same. Maybe they are all different, but we share a common goal.
We foster intellectualism and debate, but most of all, we keep each other safe. Sorry to make you read 2 sentences.
Oh, I'll love to read 2 sentences. Places of worship are on every street corner and God in every book.
Our minds are what's sacred to us.
And in this game, no one is allowed to use religiously based words. So no, oh my gods. No, what the hell.
Damn it.
You can't use that either. Because, like, damned. And then I realized while writing this that so many idiomatic phrases in English come from the Bible. So in the appendix, there's a very long list of them. And also no religious words from other languages either. For the aspects, what we want to keep in mind is kind of want them to be big, enough to kind of have this material to work with. Want them to be clear so that everybody understands what they are, and we want them to bite, want it to be like a little provocative, in a sense, so that it's interesting. So I guess we'll start with, and this is like a group discussion. We can discuss what we want these aspects to be. And this is really defining the world that we're going to play in. So a different doctrine. What do we believe? What sort of beliefs separate us from the religious masses?
So I think just before we jump into that, I guess I have a question, which
Sure.
is, what, how do we want to discuss the world that we're playing in? Are we just playing on Earth? If so, is it modern day? Like where? Or are we coming up with something different?
We can do anything that we want, so it's whatever you guys want to do.
I think I like something maybe like classic Rome, ancient Rome or something, where there were lots of gods, where people haggled with their gods, and there were maybe some monotheists running around preaching something where religion is everywhere and everybody follows a god, but it's not totally, fanatics aren't very, you don't have many fanatics, you have more people. It's kind of part of life where you go home and then you sacrifice a chicken to your household god and stuff like that. Maybe, I don't know.
I'm fine with that, but if any other people are interested in it.
Are you thinking like early Rome, or are you thinking later Rome? Because if you go, say, earlier Rome, we could go the whole classical Greek thing and bring in Aristotelian ideas in, and they had the whole concept of a philosopher king should be running their community. At least that's the gist of it. So you saw these big breaks in governmental philosophy really early on, but they never actually tested that. So we can maybe play with that if we go really early. if
If
you
we
go
go
later,
too
it's
early.
more conflicts with established religions. So if you want to butt up against religions that we're familiar with now, then it would have to be later.
Yeah, I was going to say if we go too early, then we don't really have some of the monotheistic ones that we're a little bit more familiar with, right?
Okay.
Oh, I wasn't
Oh,
thinking of.
it's not a strong, opinion. Just yeah, like and yeah. What were you about to say, Sabine?
I wasn't really thinking about a really historical Rome, but more something like that's inspired by the idea I have of ancient classical Rome. So we could go really historical, or we could just take what everything thinks that maybe was happening in Rome and just run with that. I don't know.
Well, even early on, there are tons of religions out, in that ancient world. So I guess, Tomer, if you're thinking that you do want to see some direct, I'm not sure if we'd call out any specific belief, but if you do want to see that direct kind of conflict, or at least contact, then it might be better to contextualize it. But if you go early enough, then we could use allegorical stage ends. We don't have to name anything in particular, right? A bull god is a bull god, for example. But if
Right.
you want to have strong context, we'd have to place it in a different era.
So honestly, I'm kind of happy with one of two directions, like either going very early because I don't think I know much of what that looked like historically. I've just got like these vague images, which is good because that gives us a little bit more freedom of movement. Um, so I'm kind of happy with that kind of like early Rome or uh, that kind of feel. Um, but I'm also kind of like if we wanted to play something that was like the other thought I had was if we look at the Mediterranean during kind of the expansion of the more like Islam and like their kind of expansion and their I don't know kind of like scientific revolution, right? So there's this very strong culture, and maybe there is a strong religion as well, but there and I'm not that familiar with it, so it would just be kind of like playing in that world and kind of making it up as we go. But there's also like a really strong I don't know what the word is, like an enlightenment, if you will.
Yeah,
But I'm okay either way.
I kind of agree with that. I think I prefer the earlier one, and we don't have to like stick with classical Rome. I mean, there's similar cultures all like if you do South America, pretty much the religion is the state, and every culture what had its own religion. So even though they're all related, so I don't know, because if this game really is not about not religion, then it really shouldn't matter, right?
Yeah, we do want to kind of roughly define like what like the religious majorities believe versus like what our community believes. And that can just be as simple as just like outright like rejecting that a deity exists, or it could be a little more complicated. It could be like socially motivated. So I mean, it's really open in that sense. Um, so
I think we should go with Sabine's suggestion, and we can definitely tune it as we go.
yeah,
I think if they're towards what Tomer was saying about like these larger religions that are you know that sweep a culture, I think that could be worked into the same motif, right?
yeah. So we can say something inspired kind of by like early Rome with these different religions that are like floating around in the culture, because there's the majority religion, and then also there's like other smaller religions that we could interact with in the game, and so we can have something inspired by that like Roman culture, but of course also just like deviate from that as well. Okay, so everybody is okay with that. Let's go to aspect generation. So the first one is a different doctrine. So what do we believe? What sort of beliefs separate us from the religious masses?
So we don't really think either that there are no gods or that gods just don't matter. I guess that's
it can be either of those.
I kind of like the idea. I mean, something that's simple is that we really kind of believe or adhere to only what we can see and feel, right? So, you know, like if one easy route to go is if we don't have an explanation for a thing, then we don't know what it is, right? Like there's a little bit of that kind of like scientific method, but like early scientific method, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of skeptical about anything that that we can't we don't understand, right?
Yeah. So that could be. I'm thinking a way to phrase that. A way to phrase that might be like see to believe. Like you have to see it to believe it.
and that we don't take the easy answer like, okay, we've seen now that there is some lightning, and we haven't seen a bearded guy throw it around, so maybe there is another explanation for why lightning exists, and it doesn't have to be gods, really.
This is kind of implying though that that we are pushing back against a belief that there is a God. So are we skeptics then? Because that's one way to say it. We are reacting against something that is out there in the masses. So that's one way to view it. Another way to view it is that we're rationalists, and it doesn't, the concept of God just doesn't exist. It's the only thing that you can trust is your own mind and your own senses, and skepticism is actually a separate thing.
It is, but it's a blurry
Differences.
line, right? It starts to become a blurry line for the individual, which I think is fine, right? We're going to be a community that doesn't necessarily agree on all these things. But I think if we kind of agree that, it's like on a phrase, and maybe Noella, you said it best, where it was like we have to see it to believe it kind of thing, or something like that, like something really simple like that, where it kind of sounds a little bit like skepticism, but it also kind of sounds a little bit like being rational, and it doesn't really kind of fit in any specific bucket. It's just kind of like a simplistic.
I think that's fine too. That might create. I mean, there's also that inherent conflict that might be interesting to explore. That the community contains multitudes within it, right?
Yeah,
Some are reactionary. Go ahead.
That's definitely something that we will be exploring, and it kind of depends on which route we take. But the kind of idea of different camps within the group, different ideologies, and whether or not that grows into like a schism within the group or not. So, I have down on the Roll20 see to believe right now that just that idea of relying on like sensory information, like what we like experience in the world, rather than like believing in something that's not necessarily visible to us. So if everyone's okay with that, we can move on to the next question, which is sacred space. What space provides sanctuary to our wayward group?
So this is an actual physical space, or
Yes, I
Yeah.
was envisioning more of like a physical space, like where's our hangout? Where do we like gather?
My first thought was a like some kind of city park where a bunch of people gather for like morning stretch routines. It's almost like yoga, if you will, but not, right? And and it's all ages, and it's one of those things where it, maybe um, because of conflicts in the past, where different people of different belief systems may have kind of arrived and then had conflicts that we've there's something like this, right? Some routine that's been established, right? Like this exercise stretch routine. But because of prior conflicts, they've created rules here where you're not allowed to bring your religion in. That's like initially like the rules. So that way they prevented conflicts. But what it's done is it's kind of provided a space for people who also are happy to talk about not having religion, right? Or whatever. So something like that. I don't know.
What do the rest of you think?
yeah, I like that. Maybe it's some kind of gymnasium where people come to just physically train a bit, and then they gather around, and there's a park, and they just hang out there all the time now because they really feel like they're a community.
I'm fine with that.
I also kind of like the idea that it's like a subset of the sports that are going on there. Like, I don't know if in classical, like Greek and Roman stuff, like sports a lot of times were kind of linked with some of the religious aspects, right? So like almost like there's like, yeah, there's this there's this park where some routine is established that we're talking about. And, again, for some reason, the rules have been demarcated here where it's like no religion here. But, if you go across the street here, yeah, that's where they're doing this sport and that event. And those might have huge religious connotations, right? And ceremonies. So maybe it's just like kind of like a subset of this area or something where this is happening.
Okay, so is everybody okay with that? So I'll put park on here. Is everybody okay with the Roll20? Can you see what I'm putting on here?
Yes.
Okay. So for the last one, we kind of get a free aspect where we get to choose. And Michaela, I'm going to pick on you since you've been a little quiet.
Oh my god.
Unfortunately, you kind of got the hardest one because we can do
Wow.
anything we want with this one.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I don't really have any idea though. So an aspect can be, it's like a big thing, right?
Yeah,
I think
it's
that,
basically something that really defines the community, something that, so throughout the game, we're going to be creating words based on these aspects. So something
Yeah.
that...
I think I'd like it to be like some kind of thing related to eating together or something like that. Yeah, maybe like every week, once a week, there's like this communal. After this thing in the park, they have like this communal meal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any like specific ideas. If there's any, if it's more specific than that, maybe it should.
No, that's good because
Okay.
we don't want it to be like so specific that it limits play, but not, yeah. So what do you guys think about that?
I like it. I think that's the start of a ritual, and we can grow it, right? So it began as a ritual, then, or just a a thing that people have to do, which is eat, and then it could grow into a larger ritual.
Yeah, and how do we want to define it? Is it called like a shared meal?
I mean, that sounds good to me. If anybody else has a better way to phrase it, feel free.
Do we almost see it? Is this like a potluck where everybody brings something and they're all sharing it together or something?
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that idea.
I think that's really cool. And then that
Yeah.
way because it's this shared meal and everybody's bringing stuff, even if people are coming from different cultures or different, traditions, like they're bringing their thing, right? And so it has this really weird kind of like non-cultural, non-specifically cultural thing, right? I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I like that too. Is everybody okay with that?
I like it. Let's go with it.
So I'm just going to put potluck on the card. All right. So next we are going to do community questions, and this is really to kind of help us fill out the community more and get to know them better. So the way this is going to work, so I have 7 questions on here, so we're not going to get to all of them. I'm basically going to go in order of people. Everybody's going to answer one question so that everybody has a chance to kind of add their ideas. And I'll go last. So I'm going to pick on Jean for the first question, which is, what ideas divide us? What 3 factions exist, and how are they distinguished?
Okay. I think we're going to pick up on what we were talking about before, and that is some of us are skeptics and some of us are rationalists. And in other words, some are actively defying other religions, and other people are more theoretical or more purist about the concept. And I think the third party is a group that prefers not to institutionalize the concept at all. And I think these are actually broken down into groups that bring certain types of food. For example, I think that the skeptics might be the bread makers. They might be the bakers, and that's because they make all the bread or most of the bread that comes in. And we'll say that the theorists or the rationalists might be the winemakers or the vintners, and the other group, which prefers not to be institutionalized, make pretty much everything else. And certainly that's not a sharp line, and there are divides crossing it. But I think, we already established those basic concepts early, so we should run with them.
Yeah. Just for kind of ease of referring to them, I'm just going to label the people who don't want to institutionalize as free thinkers.
Okay.
So, because we have skeptics, rationalists, free thinkers, so that we can refer to them easily. And I'm going to repeat this back to you just so that I'm clear what the difference between skeptics and rationalists are, because it's not something I really looked into before. So for skeptics, these are people who are kind of actively, who invest in acts of defiance towards religion. And then the rationalists are more invested in the theoretical discussions about what's going on.
Right. So the skeptics are more Socratic, so they follow Socrates, and the rationalists would be I can't think of the guy's name, the think therefore I am guy.
Is that Descartes?
I think it was Descartes. Yes. So, but we could also, if you want to remove those labels entirely, we could just say the skeptics are the bakers, and the rationalists are the winemakers, and the unorganized would be the eaters. They don't do anything. So
Yeah.
we could lose those labels entirely and just call them those three things.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think we should, just so that we understand, we can always refer to them as the skeptics, the rationalists, and the free thinkers. But in terms of the world, we can call them bakers, vintners, eaters. Do the rest of you all like that?
Yeah, I love it. I love the fact that there's these weird demarcations just because maybe most of the skeptics are bakers or whatever. And now, people are just like, oh yeah, they're the bakers. Like, it's just great.
Yeah, I really like the connection to food. Also, I think it's really interesting that the so-called free thinkers are the eaters, kind of implying that that's a majority of the group, and maybe kind of the very opinionated people might actually fall into a very small subset of the group. So Mikhail, I'm going to go to you next. So what do the major religions look like? What do they worship and value? And don't feel like a pressure to do like a lot of detail on this. I just want us to get a general idea of what it looks like.
Yeah, I imagine it being like this kind of you have a god for each like thing that is important in society, pretty much.
So like a polytheistic religion?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you go, and if you're gonna do stuff, you go and sacrifice a goat to your war god or whatever, that kind of thing. Yeah, and I think in that way also they're a pretty like big part of everyday life, because I mean you do stuff that's related to it every day, and you would, if you're religious, you would yeah, I don't know, do a prayer or do like give the god an attention at like each point where you interact with that domain in a way. What do they worship and value? Yeah, I guess I answered that, didn't I?
I think so. I mean, it's also something we can elaborate on as we go along, since kind of drawing upon Greek and Roman religion, we can, depending on the context, we can, create a new referent. Okay, Sabine, what religious word or phrase do we still use colloquially even when we avoid all others?
Well, I think what we're still using colloquially are curse words. Like when you just hit your thumb with a hammer, you're pretty much allowed to say damn. Like that, because it's really hard to get people to not say damn when they hit themselves with a hammer if that's something they've done for 20 years. And the community maybe has recognized that this goes a bit far to punish people that have just hit themselves with a hammer.
I'm going to limit us to just the one.
Okay, damn.
Yeah, especially since compared to some of the other ones, it's a little less obvious. So I think that's, definitely something that's permissible. So, Holmes, how do we punish people who use all other religious words and phrases?
I want to say it's really simple. We just don't let them eat the food that day.
Awesome.
Like even if they've brought food, like we still have their food, but they're not allowed to eat or partake.
No food for you. No dinner for you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. So, and then I'll kind of go last. How did we find each other? What activity or media brought us together? So, I'm going to say that a lot of us worked at feasts, in terms of like, maybe I'm going to say we worked as staff at aristocratic feasts, whether they were political or religious, which political would also be religious by the nature of this society that we've set up. And we all started to meet each other through either cooking for these feasts or being servers, and and then we started meeting at this park. Great. So now we're going to make characters. So during the game, we're going to make, so during each turn, so there's 3 rounds, which is each one is an age. And every player takes 1 turn during the age, and then after that's over, we move to the next age. And so each turn consists of each person creating a word based off of I'll deal you kind of connection cards, and I'll go over the specific process in a minute. But so we each have a character, and we're going to use those characters to interact with each other and use the words that we've created. And so I will go ahead and deal everybody 3 archetype cards, and then you'll pick one to make a character. And I apologize that I did not create names for this. It's just a hard thing to do, so I kind of left that till later. But
do you want us to draw cards?
I deal them to you.
Oh, okay.
So I guess since we're doing like a Roman inspired thing, maybe something that has like a Roman flavor. So on the Roll20, you should all have the archetype cards now. And in the event that a character may die, which is possible, I've had, for example, I've had character die because we decided to have enough time pass between the age that they would die of natural causes. I've had characters murder each other. So it is possible for the characters to die. It won't always happen, but if your character does die, I can give you more archetype cards, and you can create a new one. And so with the archetype card, you see that there's the description and which aspects you identify with and how you identify with them. And so I'll give you a few minutes to just work on that. And once everybody's done, we can do an introduction for our characters. So for the name, there is the given name, which would be like your full name, and then there's what some people call you, or a nickname that's kind of a name that's special to the isolation. And then you also have your role in the isolation. So this is really based off of your archetype. You kind of describe what your function is within this community, and then also how you relate to the aspects. And then also, if you want to do more description of your character, you totally can. If you want to do like a physical description or more about their history, or anything else, you can feel free to do that. In the Roll20, I did make some character sheets, which are basically blank documents, that you can put your information in, just so that we can all keep track.
Where would I find them? Sorry, I found the
Noella,
cards.
you'll need to give us rights to each of the character sheets.
Okay. Sabine, they're under the little icon that looks like a newspaper.
Ah, I got it.
They wouldn't appear to you until she gave us the rights to the sheet.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I'm grabbing number 2.
So am I choosing one of these, or am I all of these?
Oh, you would choose one.
Okay, because that makes sense. I was just like, how can I be all of these things at once? I don't know.
I don't know if we have rights to edit it.
Yeah, you'll need to grant us those rights as well.
Give me the rights.
Sorry.
Yeah. So one thing you'll notice, and I'll like while you're doing that, those 3 cards. Like, so Mikhail, you were asking the question about the cards. So you're really just choosing one of those roles to be your character.
Yeah.
And they have a title, they have a little bit of flavor text, right? And then at the bottom in the orange text, they kind of tell you how you relate to the aspects in the game. And there's those 3 aspects, right? And some characters will, relate to all of them. Some maybe 2 and don't care about the third. Some only care about one of them. So, you just kind of choose one of these and then figure out, like, you kind of start creating that little story of who this person is based on whatever your choice is there.
Cool. Yeah.
So you should be able to edit them all.
I'm going to grab number 4 then.
No, I just deleted the Sage, which was pretty stupid because I wanted to play them, but I deleted them. Can you put the Sage up for me again?
Yes, let me find it.
Thank you.
Okay, so Tamara is number 1, Sabine is number 2, and I'll take number 3.
Okay.
I'm number 4.
I took number 2.
Oh yeah, then I take number 1. So
causing trouble.
Yeah. So
I put a lovely link in the Roll20 chat, which is 50 wonderful Roman mythology names for your baby. So if anybody wants one of those, they can take one.
I kind of want one for my baby now. I don't have one, but
I think I'll call my character Aries. Aries? Aries. Yeah.
Aries is the god of war.
Aries is the god of war. Aries is the sign of the ram, actually. Aries is not the god of war. Aries is, and that's Greek, and the Roman one would be Mars. But it's actually just a name for ram.
yeah, I'm actually playing the other game I'm running this month is also in the Roman era. So this fits well. I'm just gonna steal names from there. I don't know though about these archetypes. They are very different, and they're a little different. How interesting they're gonna be based on what the other people choose. So I'm a little.
Sabine, I think I gave you the sage back.
Yes, I've got the sage back. I'm a sage. So.
battery alert.
Sabine, which character sheet are you using?
I'm using character 1.
Okay.
I don't remember if it matters as we're playing what we're archetype kind of thing is, but I'll put it there with my name. So I'm going to put name and then the whatever, and that's like the card that I chose.
Okay, that's a good idea.
It's mostly just narratively important,
Right.
not mechanically.
Oh, it's going to be very narratively important.
It kind of has a nice kind of ring to it, though, in terms of like ancient Rome, like you identify by your occupation as well. So I kind of like it.
Sabine, I'm surprised you didn't pick the one for the King of the Sabines.
No, I'm not so much enamored by my name, so.
Oh, that's too bad.
Which one was the rationalist? Or they the bread eaters? Bread bakers?
The
bakers?
winemakers. The winemakers.
The eaters was just the regular ones, yes. Okay. It's early in the morning, my cognitive ability has not risen up to.
That's all right. You have the advantage of your cognitive load working better as time goes on.
Yeah, that's true. We'll cross paths in the middle.
Yeah, there we go.
How's everybody doing on character creation?
I'm ready.
I'm going to share the screen for a minute and then talk so it comes up so whoever's watching the recording can see what it looks like.
Okay, thanks, Thomas.
At least just for a minute or two. So they'll know why we're sitting here all quietly concentrating.
Yes, the boring part of every stream.
Not boring for us, though.
Most interesting part of every game. Cool. Yeah, I think I'm good too.
Yeah, this works pretty well with the card draws and things. I think when I played the first time with Garrett, he plugged them all into Roll for Your Party, and it worked pretty well. I think it was Roll for Your Party. It might have even been just like a Google Doc or something.
I think you might have made a Google Doc. This was Yoshi made this one
Right.
on Roll for Your Roll20, and this is the first I have played using this before, but I was on an iPad because my computer was broken, and it does not work that well on an iPad. So this is like my first time using it like well, and you know, it's not perfect, but it works. So, Sabine, are you ready?
I'm ready, yeah. I'm fine.
So, why don't we kind of go around and introduce our characters? And Jean, we'll start with you.
Okay, I am Flavius. I make the menus for the Great Feast. So I arrange what we'll be eating and place out specific orders and place the orders according to my preference. As to which should be prominent, I also arrange where people sit. And that is my role. Do you need more?
No, that's totally fine. We can always flesh it out more as we go. Mikhail, what about you?
Yeah, I'm playing Claudia. She is the healer. I think as for what kind of thing she does in the society, I think probably I think she's like someone who manages like a wine farm. Like yeah, the like I don't know, the Roman equivalent of a shift leader or something like that. So pretty much like taking care of the people picking the berries and doing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What's the word in Norwegian? I'm just curious.
Arbeidsleder.
Excellent, thank you.
Sabine, what about you?
I'm Aries. I'm the sage. I am a baker. And I know a lot of things mostly about people actually, because being a baker, you talk to a lot of people. And I am pretty opinionated, and I will tell people what I think about everything, right? And give them a lot of advice, and it's mostly it's useful.
So, sorry, I forgot to do this with the two of you before. So, what are the aspects that you identify with or not?
I identify with See to Believe and the potluck, and the park is the source of my knowledge because I'm talking to people in the park a lot.
And just real quick before we go to Tom's, Dean and Mikhail, can you just tell us what aspects you identify with and why?
Yeah, I identify with potluck and the park, and I think See to Believe is the causes of our pain.
Okay, so Flavius identifies with See to Believe and potluck, and he he fears the park because that's the one part of the organization he does not directly control.
Great. Tomes, what about you?
So I will be playing Vesta, the celebrity. She is basically becoming a very famous cook around these parts. And her husband helps her run like a very small kind of like food establishment. He does all the business side of the house, and she's always been the cook and kind of runs the kitchen. And she's been coming to the park and is a huge appreciator of the potluck. She loves seeing everybody's different foods. And she has incorporated some of the things that she's found here and this mix of cultures to create all sorts of new dishes. And that has gotten her invited to some of the royal houses around here, some of the politicians. And, so she's kind of got a name for herself around cooking now. She only identifies with the aspect of potluck.
I wonder how the rest of the community feels about that. So just quickly, can we go through what pronouns all of the characters use?
And yeah, just having just gone, Vesta is she, her.
And Aries is he and him.
And Flavius is he, him.
Claudia, she, her.
Yeah, just maybe put those in the title next to the name for easy reference. So my character is Evander, which is the magician card, and is he, him. And I've kind of picked out like the nickname that the group has for him is Good Evan. And he is actually a priest with the religion. And he basically, for bad behavior, has been put on outreach duty and is assigned to basically hang out in the park and the potlucks in order to try and convince some of these people to come back to worship. And he identifies with see to believe, and that is his secret, is that he has lost faith in gods. All right. So, I guess we're supposed. Oh, we skipped this, so I'm just going to go back to it quickly. We need to name our isolation. So, what do you all think we should name our isolation?
You should call it the circus.
I like that.
But I'm sure someone has a really great idea, so let's hear them.
I just, what came to my mind was Pan Am, like the name of the country in the Hunger Games, because it means bread in Latin. I don't know if that's too biased towards the bakers.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, why not?
Could also be a source of tension.
Yeah. I'm cool with that.
I think it's Panem. I don't know, do any of you know Latin?
I'm convinced that that is correct.
Yeah,
Because
well,
I do not know Latin.
we'll just roll with it.
It's the accusative, I think, of bread. So, well, that's fine.
I mean,
I think of Hunger Games, but that's
yeah, that's what I got it from. All right, so
It's actually the saying is panem et circenses. It's bread and games, which the Romans used to keep their populace docile.
yes, that's definitely the themes of that book. All right, so we've introduced our characters, so I will explain briefly the flow of play. So like I said before, there's going to be 3 ages where we play, and age 1, age 2, age 3, and then we'll have a brief kind of epilogue, which is the legacy, which doesn't have the same flow of play. That's basically, we describe where our characters end up after the end of this community. And during the game, we'll take turns. At the beginning of the game, I will deal 3 age 1 cards to everybody. And first, if it's say it's my turn, first I make a connection, and so you pick a card from your hand, and then you pick an aspect, and you explain. You basically explain the connection between the concept on the card and the aspect, and that leads into the next step, which is building a word. So this word is based on the connection between the concept and the aspect. And in a minute, I'll talk about different methods for creating words. And then the last step is have a conversation. So, and when you build a word, we can talk about it. It's good to communally build the word, but then the decision for the final form of the word is up to the person whose turn it is. So it's good for us to communally build it, but for time's sake, the person whose turn it is has the last word. And then during the conversation, the player will pick characters to have a conversation based on the card that you use will have a little prompt at the bottom for the conversation, and you basically have to, you have to use the word, but it's basically demonstrating the relationship of the characters to the new piece of language. The easiest way to do that is to use this word in conversation, related to this important concept that it's expressing, right? And then there is a subset of playing cards, which is an action card, which can modify the turn structure depending on the text of the cards. It'll be pretty much easy to explain that in the moment when somebody wants to use one, because they're all different. And then the other important mechanism is you can create variants of words. And but once again, that'll be most easiest to understand once we have an opportunity to do it. Basically, there's already, you look at a word that we already have on the table, and you want to create a word that's either a variant of this word or something that's closely connected. You discard a card, and you can just write it, put it on the table. So this might be a related concept closely to the thing we just defined, or maybe not just, you can do it at any point in the game depending on the story, or maybe it's a different form of the word that a different subgroup uses. There's also an action card for that. And then once you finish a regular turn, you draw a card for the next age. So during age 1, draw another card for age 2. And also if you do a variant, since you discarded a card, you would also draw a card for the next age. And then quickly, when we do transition between ages, I'll explain this a lot more once we go from age 1 to age 2. Sorry, there's like a drone outside. You can see on the scenario, there's 2 different pathways we can choose. These are basically 2 different plot lines for the communities. Between age 1 and age 2, we choose one and we follow that throughout the rest. So we read the little prompt, and then we evolve an aspect, and You can also discard a card and draw a new card for the upcoming age if you're dissatisfied with your hand. So before I get into different mechanisms for building a word, does anybody have any questions?
I'm sure
Okay.
I'm gonna have a lot of questions when we get into play, but
yeah, we can. Yeah, we'll just address stuff as we go. So when you're building words, like I said, just draw from the connection, and also just trust yourself. If something is just easily coming to you, we can just put that. There's no need to be fancy. Just do whatever feels right. And then also, if it's your turn, you do have the final say. If a debate erupts for some reason, just put what you want. The other people will have a chance to do that on their turn. And remember, when we're building the language, we're like codifying these parts of our culture that we think is important. We're picking out these concepts that are so important that they have their own words. That's different from the surrounding society. And then when we use the words with each other, we're creating these relationships. And just using those words continually is it's establishing the truth of you as a member of this community. And so when we build words, and like I said, multilingual people, feel free to use other languages as inspiration. But for example, you can repurpose a word. It's like, old word, new meanings. Like, maybe our currency, like maybe we call our currency carrots. Like that would be repurposing a word. Oh, let me give you 10 carrots for this bread. You could modify an existing word either by blending it, like cyborg is a blend of cybernetic organisms, so something like that. You could just mush two words together. You can clip a word. You could shorten it, like gas for gasoline. You can incorporate a new sound. That might be a little harder to do or understand. The example they give in the book is that in English, the sound, the GL, like in glisten, glimmer, glam, glitz, all these words that have the GL evoke a shimmering, brilliance thing. And so if there's a sound you associate with some meaning, we can use that to do in a word. Again, if that's too confusing for you, you don't need to use it. Another thing is you could use automatopoeia, like meow, meow, cat could be a cat, woof, woof, dog, it could be something like that. Like, you could do an acronym. You could make a word a different type of speech, like verbing, fooding. And then you could also just like completely screw a word up, like mispronounce it. Just use a wrong word, stuff like that. And so it gets easier once we get into it, I promise. Anybody have any questions? So, the easiest way to do this is really just to jump in. So,
Yes.
We're just gonna go into play now, and first I will deal the age 1 cards, and I will try to remember to give everybody an age 2 card after the end of their turn. Please remind me if I forget to give you your card. Where did they go? these. And everybody gets 3 cards. Did everybody get their cards? You see them?
My deck looks identical. My 2 decks, my 2 hands rather.
Did you scroll down?
When you click on them, it shows all of your stuff in one screen, and then you have to scroll down to see.
Okay.
Can we get rid of the other cards? Like, is there a way?
You can. There's also a way to do it by deck. It should have all or by deck, and that separates it out for me. Age 1 is story 1, and then archetype is archetype.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
There is a way to remove it too, though. If you I think the GM has to do it. If you take the deck with the archetypes, and you can recall.
Yeah. Do you want me to just? Would it be easier if I just took the archetypes away?
Sure.
Either way. I mean, now that you explain it, I'm fine.
Yeah. If we need to create new characters, I can just redeal.
Yeah.
There we go. But yeah, when we do have, I mean, with age 2, with the 8 different age cards being mixed together, doesn't really matter that much. But if you do want to delineate them, just by deck will be helpful. So, does anyone want to go first? I'm gonna pick on Tomes. Sorry, but you.
That's okay. Pick on me.
You're at the end of the line on my screen, so.
Not a problem. Ooh, let's start sad. All right, we're gonna go with the. I have one card which is death. So it reads, "Our language for ultimate loss." And the story prompt we're going to use, which is down at the bottom, right? That says letting go.
So, so what ideas do people have for words for death?
Which aspect is it connected to?
Yeah, Tomes, which aspect do you want to connect it
to? I want to connect it to I actually want to connect it to potluck.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think one way that we disassociate, the word from, like sometimes it has like, obviously in a lot of cultures, there's spiritual significance to death and lots of ceremonies around it. But I think one way to disassociate that is to actually not associate it with our beliefs, but just to like the way the potluck ends, right? Like something to do with like kind of like how we finish our our ritual of eating together.
What about cleaned up? Like he was cleaned up.
I find that a bit too cynical. Like, yeah, now he's cleaned up. I would put a lot more some weight in it. So I don't know. If we don't believe in an afterlife because we can't see it.
So, I mean, one thought I have, and I don't have a word yet for it, but, one of the things with the potluck is, every time you show up, it's a completely different set of things, right? And so at the end, these foods and dishes that have appeared, you don't know when you'll see them again. You may never see them again, right? So there's kind of something final about the end of this, combination of foods where we will never possibly see the same combination again.
Yeah, right? Also with like everyone contributing, there's something there too. Like, and they will no longer contribute in a way. So there's some symbolicism possibly there.
So maybe it's a lessening or something like that, because there is one person less. You could go with this.
Or absent.
Oh, like an empty chair, right? Or an empty
Yeah.
spot, or an empty place setting.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I like that.
So maybe empty chair
Empty
or
chairs
chair
good.
or chairless.
Oh, I like chairless.
Chairless is good.
Because, like, she's chairless now.
I kind of like that idea. Yeah, no, I like that idea, and I maybe I want to go with this where, because the potluck has people come in and out, and we have people from different cultures, and sometimes like this is a cosmopolitan city, right? We have like lots of different people who speak different languages, right? Who come from different parts of the empire, right? So maybe it started chairless and it's kind of turned into like chellis, right? Like its own new word, which doesn't really mean a thing, but
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So Tomes, it's your decision. So throw it up on one of those cards on the outer ring. So the further we go, we progress, the more inwards we go on the circle.
I'm assuming I probably have permission. Do I do like a text there? Text?
Yeah, under the eye or the paintbrush.
Yes. There we go. Am I allowed to move this thing?
You gotta click on the cursor to move it. Can you oh there you go. Just blow it up a little.
Bam. Let's go to 40 point. Boom. There, that's legible.
I like it.
Right. And so I think yeah, I wonder, let's look at the card again. What does the story prompt say? Letting go. And so maybe, this first scene, we see the park, right? And there was, and maybe all of us at first are, kind of talking, and it looks friendly, right? Like everyone's kind of like sharing food, and it's all sitting there. Maybe there's like a kind of almost like a blanket out, on top of some what looks like a rough table, right? And there's all these little different dishes that people have brought, but we see that all of us are kind of just standing there, and I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, do you think that we've brought like a chair for nobody to sit on to symbolize this person who's kind of, died and is not coming, and we know it, right?
I think initially there would be exactly that. There'd just be an empty seat. But I think over time, as it grew, there might just be one chair that they just bring out.
Oh, I love that. And maybe it's like the same chair that's always brought out. And even, even if we've missed a couple of people now, it's almost like it just kind of symbolizes the people who have moved on, right?
Right.
And so, I think at the end of the meal, maybe somebody comes in. I think somebody comes here and maybe doesn't know where that person is, right? Hasn't heard the news, right?
So who is the person coming in who hasn't heard the news? Which character?
Let's say it's Evander.
And who do you want him to talk to?
Yeah, let's see Evander talk to Flavius. And I think the rest of us are there. Like, you can see us in the background, right? Like, we're kind of, either moving food around or eating or chatting or whatever. But I think it's them two who are going to have this interaction, right?
Yes. So I'll start. Evander kind of is very like straight, shoulders back posture, and kind of walks in and spots Flavius and said, "Oh, Flavius, very good to see you. Very good to see you. Do you have a minute? I'd like to talk to you about some of the new developments at the temple."
It's Evander, isn't it?
Yes.
I see. Well, I'm awfully busy today, and as you can see, we're in mid-meal, and there are many things we have to attend to, courses, arrangements, that kind of thing. So if you can make it brief, I could spare you a moment now.
So who died?
I think Nona died.
Nona died.
Yeah, and I think maybe Nona is someone who has also been maybe almost like a center point to our community, right? Like she's kind of like hobnob between a lot of the big people, so everybody kind of knew her, right? So this is kind of a big deal that she's not here.
Yeah. Oh yes. Well, we've been having councils about some of the finer points of the reincarnation doctrine, and I was having such a great conversation with Nona about this last week, and she meant, and I know that you and her were just the people to talk to here. Where is she? I'm sure she'd love to hear this news.
Nona isn't here, and she won't be here any longer. In fact, her departure presents a rather large problem with our arrangements, and frankly, I'm a little upset that you're bringing this up. It's a little uncouth, and frankly, I'm not comfortable speaking to you about it.
What? Are you saying Nona Chellis?
I nod towards the chair. Yes, you're new to this. You're new to this way, and this is what Nona would have liked. She would like to be honored in this fashion. Today's menu represents the things she liked, and I'm sorry, you had something specific to talk to me about?
No, it's all right. Wait. And then I think we can cut it there.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think you even see like some of us, in the background, kind of like watching the conversation and kind of having that like uncomfortable look, like as Nona's brought up, and then as Flavius starts to respond to you and your response. No, I think that was perfect.
Yeah. All right.
I don't want to seem like I was cutting you off. That was all. All right. Good.
All Flavius, not Gene.
Well, maybe a little Gene, but not a lot.
All right. And then Sabine, why don't you go next?
Okay, so I'm going to choose a card. And we had death, now we'll have this one, which is a bit better. It's wonderful, and now I've put it on the desk and can't read it anymore because it's too small. Yeah. I'm sorry. Got to find it. There you go. So, wonderful means a vision of hope, milk and honey, and all that is good. May we fill our days with it. And the story hint is a shared moment of wonder. So we need a word for something that is good and that is nice, and maybe a good meal, or when everybody comes together and the things are really going off very well. And we really need a word for that because a lot of words in our culture are referring then to God and miracles and stuff like that. It's like wonderful, which a wonder, well, kind of miracle. So we need something that's very strong.
So which aspect are you connecting it to?
Oh yeah, I have to attach it to an aspect. I think I want to attach it to the park itself. Yeah. Okay, right. So I'll attach that to the park. So maybe it's something about the weather, something like clear sky and the sun is shining and there's this special kind of light which is golden, and so maybe this is just like golden blue because the sky is blue and the sun is golden, like that. Or has anybody have any other suggestions?
Although the sky can sometimes have religious connotations, like
Yeah,
with heaven.
Yeah, but a blue sky is a blue sky. That's what we see, and we can believe in that.
Right, and you could actually tie it into like the time to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way we're going to measure time other than like when we're hungry, and by the weather conditions. It's we don't have timepieces, so it has to be.
I do like that idea of the clear sky to some extent, because part of the problem with the park is if the weather is not good, like the park doesn't make a good place for us to meet, right? If it's open, I'm assuming it's open air. And so something to do with like if you're associating this with the aspect of the park, then it's something about the park being good is kind of like that is,
Yeah, that's my association as well. Just when the weather is really fine and it's not too cold and not too hot, the sun's shining and the sky's clear.
The birds are singing.
Birds are singing, yeah. And not too loudly in the morning.
I mean, we could use something like clear skies.
And why don't we just focus on clear itself? Like we can dispense with the sky and just say it's clear. That means that everything's clear. The weather. It also ties into the seed of belief thing, because then also, if it's clear, then obviously it's there's no doubting of it, right?
Yeah, so clear is our word for when everything's wonderful and great and everything's clear.
Yeah, if you like that to mean, you can go ahead and put it down.
Sure, I will. I'm already trying, but this is too small.
Make sure you put it on the outer ring.
Yeah, I recommend a 40-point font size.
Yeah. Can I just 40 this? Yes. So there we go, clear. Oh, okay. So the story prompt was something wonderful happens. So I guess we'll have a scene, something wonderful that happens. So, maybe there were some other people who kept meeting in the park, and they were pretty annoying actually, because they were always hassling us. And now these people are gone because I don't know, they have to be somewhere else. Maybe they're workers and their project takes them to another part of the city, so they won't be harassing us anymore. Is that okay? Would that be a good story prompt?
Yes, and which characters will be talking?
So I think I want to see, Claudia talk to Vesta about this.
So I think we see Vesta is, putting out one of her potluck dishes and she's beaming, right? She looks really happy.
Yeah, I think probably. I think Claudia's like walking over towards Vesta. I think she's having has this like container of wine with her. and I think like I mean she's also like has like a, let's say, a happy resting face, but when she sees Vesta, she's also like brightens up.
And I think you know, we see Vesta turn to her and oh, Claudia, what wine have you brought today?
Oh, this is the latest one from last year. It's the first time we're gonna try it. I
Oh,
think it was a
can I
clear year, yes, last year. So I think it will be good.
Oh, very nice. Can I see the color?
Yeah, and then, like open it, and I think maybe even like pour like a little into your like into the palm of your hand.
Is it like a red wine or something, or?
Yes.
And I take a little sniff and take a little taste, and I'm like, oh, this will be so clear. The wine is a perfect match for my dish, and you must try some of it.
And I think like already, probably before you even say it, I think Claudia is like leaning over the is it the actual pot, or is it like, yeah?
I think it's like a bowl with, you know.
Yeah, like looking in. I mean, I imagine her being probably. She's probably like already like having something in your hand when you say it. It's like, oh yes, thank you.
Nice. Yeah, it's like some stewed eggplant or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay, and so Sabine, I gave you your H2 card, and
Yes.
so we'll go to Mikhail next.
Yes. We've had all these things that are very similar to my thing, so maybe I should choose another one. Yeah, I'm gonna choose work. I'm gonna read it before I put it out because I'm not probably not gonna be able to do it once it's out. Then the isolation is no stranger to work and toil, our daily grind and duty. This is how we refer to that which must be done. Yeah, the work we must do and the toll it takes is the prompt, and then I think actually I'm gonna connect it with See to Believe possibly. Yeah, so I imagine like people usually have pretty like physically demanding jobs. I mean, in this this area, so I imagine being like an actual maybe something be related to like how you would actually look after a hard day of work or something like that. That's my immediate idea, at least.
Do we have an aspect that you're connecting it to specifically?
Yes, See to Believe.
See to believe.
I'm gonna go word hunting a little bit here. Let's see.
Maybe it would be something that if it's See to Believe, it's something that's physical on them. Like, for example, like blisters on their hands or a cut or calluses. So that would, that relates directly to physical labor. If that's where you're going with it.
Yeah, that was my initial idea, at least. I kind of, yeah, I like that, but it would be nice to have it like a little broader. I don't know if I narrowed too much down with that.
Yeah, it might also be like it might be an honorable it's a good thing. Like it's like the elite people would have it.
let me rephrase. Actually, I kind of like about how being a see to believe. It's cool to. I like it to maybe put it. The see to believe part can be something about the product that you put out in the
I
end,
like
which
that
is
idea a lot. Yeah, quality.
yeah. So that it's like I think I'd like it to be kind of like a honorable thing to put out, like something good out of a hard day's work. Maybe have it related to that in some way.
I like that. So the thing that you make, you can see an inherent quality in it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of like the kind of like, I don't know, in my word, like Protestant focus on the sweating and toiling in a way.
Right. Yeah.
So it's focused on the product or the goods or the
Yes.
whatever the deliverable is.
Yeah, creation in a way. Maybe. I mean, maybe like create is like is a word at least to start with.
Let's lean on your Norwegian.
Oh yeah, right.
And it could totally be like one of these actual goods, like bread.
Oh yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would be an actual good, and it just the
Yeah.
good itself has become, the term.
Oh yeah, I like that. I'm gonna lean at my Norwegian, I think, and say it's gonna be bake, which is Norwegian for
Okay.
bake.
Cool.
I like
that.
Yeah, so go ahead and write that on one of the cards.
And it's 40. Okay.
And it's bake, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and for this, what was the prompt? Let's see. I can't really read it now. Let's see. I'm gonna take it in again. The card. The work we must do and the toll it takes. Yeah. So I'd like to. So who haven't we seen yet? We haven't seen. Have you seen Aris? We haven't, right?
We saw ours briefly, I think.
Oh. Well, I'm gonna put in. Actually, I think I'm gonna have Aris and Westa. I think. Yes. Toiling. Seems like a fun combination to see at work.
And maybe I think we see Vesta has, in this situation, has not brought in a ready-made dish, right? That's just done. She's actually brought something that needs to be prepared, on the spot, right? So she's brought this basket and she starts pulling out these different, some fruit and a vegetable, like some kind of gourd, and she's actually has to prepare it as she's doing it. And maybe it's a warm day too, right? So she's actually sitting there very concentrating hardly and chopping some stuff up and putting it into a bowl and doing all of that.
Yeah, I think we see Arias coming up to her. He's carrying a huge basket on his back. We can smell the scent of the fresh bread wafting from this basket. He's not that young, so he's probably sweating, and he plonks down next to Vesta and says, "I've brought bread, Vesta. How's it going?"
It's I didn't plan my day right. This is a lot of bake that I should have done earlier. I should have taken your route.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of bucket today too because there was the senator's son who was celebrating, and then he wanted his bread in various amusing shapes. So I had to do that because I couldn't let my daughter do it because, well, you know. And that now I've got this thrown together. But you know what? Bucket shared is easier, so let me help you with that.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Sure.
That's very clear. Thank you. And I hand over, you know, a little knife, and you know, we start chopping together.
Yeah, Arius sits next to you. He gets out some of his baked goods and gives you a piece of that, and so you can just munch on that and while you're cutting up these vegetables. And I think that's the scene, isn't it? Cool.
All right. So, Mikhail, I gave you an H2 card, and we're going to move on to Jean.
Okay, so I'm going to play the friend card. And let me zoom in on it again. I need to zoom in even further. I will talk to Yoshi about this roll 20 thing. Okay, so a friend. This type of friendship is unique to the isolation, a bond that comes from a shared activity or a particular way we regard one another. So I think that to get into Panem, you have to be sponsored in, and I think it's not just providing food to be truly part of the community. You have to be well, no, it is providing food, but you're regarded as a guest of someone who's already there, I think. Although maybe I'm getting into the mechanics too much.
No, that's totally fine.
Okay, so that person that you bring in, you're responsible for, and they eat from your plate on the first time they're there.
Like
So
that.
they eat what you eat. And since bringing someone into the community isn't just about them providing food for the community, it's also like a resource load, because now you have another mouth to feed. So there's a give and take. So I think that they have to have an official role. So I think the person who invites the new person refers to them as their taster. So the idea being that the new person tastes all the food, and and if they agree to it or they like it, then they can stay. But I think that that's kind of gone on to a bigger connotation. I think that you can inherit that role, and I think you can transfer it. So
Well, I kind of like the idea that you're saying there's like this new person is called the taster, right?
yes.
And on the one hand, they're tasting the food, but they're also tasting, you know, this experience and whether or not they will enjoy it and come back, right?
Right.
So there's like this double meaning there, which I think that's kind of fantastic.
And that's a relationship that stays with you even after you're accepted into the community, and you're still access taster because that's how you got in, and that's the special kind of friendship, maybe?
Yes, I think so. I think that you'll always be connected to the person that brought you in.
Right. That's cool. So you would always be, you know, known as taster or whatever.
Nala, I think you're trying to say something, but I can't hear you.
Oh, it was probably just my mouth moving not saying anything.
Okay, cool.
Jean, go ahead and throw that up on one of the cards.
Okay.
Can
so
I?
The aspect was potluck, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
Can I just, if I want to use one of my creative word actions, can I just pull that that in right now, or do I have to wait my turn?
Do you mean create a variant?
Yes, I mean create a variant. I want to have a word for the person who is not the taster, but the other one, the mentor.
Yes, I think you can do it at any time.
Yes, then I would like to do it. So create a word, and
I think when we played, we still used. Is it an H2 card, by the way?
I have an H1 create a word, and I have an H2 create a word.
For a variant,
so.
you don't have to have a specific card. You just discard one of the cards in your hand.
Okay.
So you don't have to have a create a word card.
Okay. No, I have a create a word card, and I'd use that, but I just want to create a variant of.
So I think, and I'm going to interrupt just for a second. I think when we played before, and I don't know the exact rules. I know when we played, we still used it as a turn. So it was kind of like we still got to see what this word was and see it play out. And then on the next turn with the variant, we would see kind of how that would play out as well. But even if you do it now, do you like how do you handle it where we want to see this word used, like in addition to the variant, or?
So it's a variant of taster because it's the mentor, the tastee kind of thing, and you would use it in the same context because it's two sides of the same word. You can, if you use taster, you might use tastee as well. At least that's how it went when I was playing it with some other people. We would just throw in the card, create the variant, and then play out the scene.
So the official rule is, at any time you can create a variant, and it's not a normal turn, you just put the variant down. So for time's sake, I'm just gonna do that here, and we can just, take the effort to incorporate it into the rest of the normal play.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And in fact, it'll make it easier, to be totally honest.
So Sabine, what is your variant? We don't necessarily have to have like a conversation for this one, so I'm just gonna drag another card down here next to Taster. What?
I've just I like tastee because that's the mentor part of that. You have your taster and your taster is tastee, and that's a lot of words. So like mentor and mentee, just the other way around, just evolved like that. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, that speaks also to like a little bit of a weird power dynamic in the friendship thing here.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard to do on Roll20. Normally we would have the definitions on the cards. Are you guys okay with just the word being on it?
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, if you forget what a word means, just ask. So, Jean, what is the conversation prompt?
It's a revelation amongst friends, and I think for this it'll be Flavius, and I think maybe Arius and Evander.
Okay.
Cool.
And this would have happened maybe a little later that same day after Evander and Flavius had that conversation. And I think Flavius is looking over some of the documents from Nona after her passing, and he wants to talk to both Arius and Evander.
Cool.
All right.
So I hope you both enjoyed the meal in Nona's honor.
Yes, it was quite clear.
I have an unusual request from Nona. Arius, she requested that you act as the tastee for Evander, who would become your taster.
Oh, yeah. Yes, of course. I would love to do that. Evander, would that be all right with you?
Oh, I'm a little taken aback. I had mainly just come as a visitor before. I'm curious to...
Nona's very specific. She said that you may have had conversations that were deeper than perhaps you realized at the time. She sensed something in you. Of course, it's not here. Perhaps you could share it with your tastee now that he's here and he's willing to share his plate with you.
I
Well,
would be. I've got a pretty large plate.
well, Aries, I admit I'm a little apprehensive, but in Nona's honor, I would be glad to become your taster.
Good. I think we should talk a bit about what being part of this community actually means, because there's a bit more than just bringing a banana to the potluck, really, because, you know, we share some beliefs.
Yeah.
And, well, and I think we can cut it there.
Yeah, I'll cut it there.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Let me deal you each 2 cards. All right. And so I will go. So I am going to use the past, how we refer to what's come before and how it's shaped us. This may be a specific time period in the past, where the past is a general concept. And then the conversation prompt is what haunts some of us. So I'm going to connect this to See to Believe. And my idea is to kind of specifically referring to kind of before, you know, they've adopted their current beliefs as kind of either skeptics, rationalists, free thinkers. And I was maybe when they were a part of established religion or hadn't like specifically broken away, I was thinking maybe it could be something like blind, like when I was blind, kind of playing off that See to Believe idea.
I think I like that.
Did you put the card on the table?
No, I can.
Okay. All right.
So it's in the bottom left now.
Thank you.
So throw it up there. Go, and something in the past is haunting us. So I actually think I want to kind of continue this relationship between Arius and Evander, and kind of maybe Evander starts to disclose like that he has lost faith in the religion. So maybe like it's they're in the park kind of maybe after the feast, the dinner is over, and they're just trying to like get to know each other better.
Okay. So, well, I think if Evander isn't really first to speak, you will hear Aries say, well, I used to be like you know, in and out of the temples, and I had even, when I was younger, I had even the ambition to be a priest. But that was when I was blind, actually, because now I think there is, well, you know, those things you attribute to this god and theirs. Have you ever seen one of them? Well, because I haven't.
It's not about seeing, it's about faith.
But it is actually, because how can you have faith in something that you can't see, that there is no proof of? It's just like you walk through your life with your eyes closed willingly, instead of looking around and trying to find out what's what, actually.
You can't see love or joy, sadness, but we feel them anyway.
Yes, but you can. I can see when you're sad, when somebody's crying. I can see when somebody feels joy. That's pretty clear. I can even see when people love each other. There are physical, real manifestations of that. There aren't any of the gods. I mean, there is no consequence if I disrespect God. If I disrespect your joy, then you'll be angry. That's pretty clear.
One could say that becoming jealous is the result of disrespecting the gods.
Yeah, one could say that, but people who respect the gods go jealous all the time. High priests go jealous. Everyone goes jealous eventually. That's just not a proof. That's just not proof. That's just blindness. You really have to see. You have to open your eyes. If you ever see a god or have clear proof of them, then maybe. Well, but have you?
You know, I used to believe so fiercely when we studied in the great cathedrals, but now I'm not so sure.
Yeah, well, lots of people were like that before they opened their eyes.
So we'll just cut it there.
Yeah. Cool.
Good. So, let me remember to do this. I'm just gonna do myself one H2 card. And so
I'm missing an H2 card too. Sorry.
we're about 2 hours in right now. So why don't we go ahead and take a break? So let's take a 5-minute break and come back at the 10. Is that cool?
Right.
Sounds good.
Sabine, are you doing okay on time? I know you had to leave to go do something at like noon your time.
Yes, that's fine. It's just 9 o'clock here. So if we're done by 11 or maybe a bit later, then I'll be fine. And I think we will, because we have finished H1 already. So
Yeah, I mean, I would expect we'd be done by 11 at the latest.
cool. That's cool.
Jean, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, it's hard to tell because you don't have a camera on.
Right.
Okay, so now we will do the moving through the ages. So just to make sure everybody has one age 2 card now, right?
I have one, yes.
So first, we will pick which transition prompt we want to go with. So, and we can discuss this a little bit. Either the left, the black text side, or the right red text side. And then once we pick, we'll just follow that down for the rest.
Well, I'm somebody who likes harmony a bit, so I'd be with the red one, but I could also go for the black one.
There's a helicopter passing right over my condominium. But I do prefer the red one as well.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with the red one too. So, is everybody okay with the red one? The religious institution is on our tail. Our people are beginning to disappear. We have no choice but to make an alliance with a minority religious group. How do we mingle with their followers? So we can leave that as something to explore, and then also why not real quickly kind of think about what kind of minority religious group we want this to be.
So about the minority thing, maybe they're just a cult that's dedicated to some kind of hearth goddess or hearth god, and that they cook a lot. They have that in common with us. So there's maybe a natural synergy between the two groups, because they're all or it could be even a kind of Dionysian cult, like with the whole wine and food and celebrating thing. That might be a kind of natural.
Yeah, I like the last one. Like a Dionysian cult would be fun to see how that mix.
Great. So, is everybody okay with that? Yes. We can sing Ein Prosit.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think maybe the god is from a different city other than Rome, and Rome has conquered that city, and or whoever, it's maybe not even Rome, but the imperial presence has conquered another city, and the Romans did just absorb gods of cities other than their own. So maybe that's why they're a minority. Maybe they're not even in Rome yet.
Yeah, that sounds good. So next, we are going to evolve an aspect. So we're going to take one of our 3 aspects, see to believe, park, potluck, and we're going to evolve it. So what do you guys think?
And the obvious candidate, I guess, is the park.
Mm.
If it like expands, I mean, maybe no longer it's literally just the park that we used to meet in. But I don't know. That's what jumped out at me, at least.
I think I agree. I think it's obvious, but but we can make things harder for ourselves by choosing something else.
That's true.
Like we could say the potluck is gone. The food isn't important, but we have the language that refers to the food continues. For example,
Or maybe the potluck evolved from just a communal meal to a real feast.
okay, yeah, that sounds good too.
Because then we might have the connection with this Dionysian cult, because we are feasting a lot. And I think it from the scenes we played, actually the whole potluck thing became very dominant.
Yeah, I like that, and I like where we're going with that, because now it almost like builds more ceremony around the food, right? It's no longer this everybody's bringing a little bit and sharing it. Now it's more like, no, this is a production, and there are people responsible for this aspect of it and that aspect of it, and
And it becomes almost like Baka instead of just a meeting point. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like the word feast, because that's very different than potluck, right? And it goes with where we've kind of gone thematically with this other group.
Okay, so go ahead, Noella.
So how would the feast be different from the potluck?
Well, I get the sense that we are doing the potluck thing either every day or often, and we would say that a feast is now much more rare, and it takes much more work, and which is kind of weird, because if we're anti-religious, this is looking a lot like a religion in and of itself. But that's my thought, that the potluck would become rare and special and full of ceremony.
Yeah, also it stops being like this thing that people do together and being a thing that someone organizes. Also more religion, like, I guess.
Yeah, I like that there's production around it, that there's almost like in the potluck was maybe a little bit more ad hoc, like you would meet on the day and bring food, but sometimes the different people would show up, right? It wasn't like on a regular schedule, like once a week. And I kind of like the idea of this feast being like, now it's weekly, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like happening on a certain day at a certain time, and people know to come and that kind of thing.
And it's more elaborate, really, because there's more food. Everybody is expected to bring more food. Before, you could just drop in if you had a bad day or stress, then you could just drop in. But now, if you just dropped in and brought nothing, then, well, you'd just be kind of, well, what are you doing?
Yeah, I like it.
How much time do we want to have pass between then and now? A few weeks, a few months, a few years?
I kind of like the idea of it not being that much time, like, a month or two, or, maybe a season or something like that. That's my initial thought, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I like that too. Like, we're still the same people, still in the start of this thing. It's just,
okay,
happened.
Yeah, let's say like a season. So before we start, you have the option to discard a card from your hand and redraw from the upcoming age. Would anyone like to do that?
I would like to do that.
Okay, Sabine.
I will discard this one. Or maybe I will.
So just put it on the table and delete it to discard it.
I'm trying.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I've done it.
How do you delete it on the table? Like it
Just
You just
click-
select it and
click it
press the
and-
delete key.
Oh, of course. I'm like trying to
Surprise-
right click and
It's surprisingly simple. Holmes, do you want one too?
yes, please. I will have one.
Jean or Mikhail, do either of you want to redraw?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think I'm cool too. This one, there's a candidate, but I'm like, it's a challenge.
Hmm. Ha. Ooh. Cool. Yeah, I like that one.
All right, so I think we are ready to go. Sorry, I just like sorry. So I think I'm gonna go in the reverse order this time, with it being like me, Jean, Mikhail, like basically. Let's see. So, all right. So I'll go first. I am going to use euphemism. Some things need tactful phrasing. A concept in the isolation related to one of our words is only broached in euphemism. So make a connection, pick a previously defined word and explain pick a previously defined word and explain why some use a euphemism for a related concept. Then build a word, make a euphemism for the new concept together. So, on the table. I am going to say that now we're going to use a euphemism for blind, like the past of like being a believer in the religion, because now that we've kind of become fellows with this more religious group, we don't want to offend them necessarily, but we still want to have a way to like discuss, you know, our issues. So it's going to be a euphemism for blind, which I'm like, they would know if we said the word like, oh, I was blind, they would know what that means. So now we're gonna have a different word that's a little bit more tactful. Let's see.
So maybe like in the shadow or something? Because that's not really a bad thing if you're living in a rather hot climate. You're in the shadow, but you can't see very well in there, and you wouldn't exactly know what it refers to.
I wasn't blind. My vision was just blurry.
Yeah.
Maybe you only have one eye open.
Yeah. I had an idea of maybe even like using something unrelated, maybe like also connecting it to feast and saying like I was stuffed, especially because they're very like food, like this new age kind of ties religion to food more, which also complicates the relationship because, you know, this word does kind of associate the religion with food more.
Or maybe like bland, because you don't see, you have no real taste, because that's maybe like something like that.
I was just looking at the park thing, because I was just thinking like out of the park or something like that.
Oh, I like that too.
Because yeah, all of our things are food like.
That's true. We need to get away from the food a little bit. Actually, I do really like out of the park as a euphemism for blind. Or like, you know, you can you can use it to refer to yourself in the past, or like somebody else, like, oh, he's out of the park.
Hmm.
I like that too. Out of the park.
These are all good, so you can't go wrong. Just
Right? So up close and uncomfortable. I'm going to have it be Flavius, Vesta, and maybe one of the like leaders of the new group who I can just play that person. And they're like discussing like plans for events.
And how is out of the park used? Like in
It's basically used to refer to like observing religion. Like if a person is religious, they are out of the park.
right. Just a nicer way of saying blind.
Yes, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, maybe so the three of us, I kind of like the idea of the three of us are just talking, right?
Yeah.
And you're from this group, right? What's your name?
Yes. Flora.
Flora, my dear. Look, I have taken on the production of much of you know what we plan for next week, but you know what do you plan to bring?
Oh yes, I have arranged for many delicacies to aid us in our worship next week. Fine cutlery, plates, grapes, very like the delicate fruits.
Yes, but none of those have. Who's going to do the bake? I feel like I'm overwhelmed right now. I mean, you're mentioning these things, but somebody has to provide the bake.
what I think Vesta is trying to say, Flora, is that while we appreciate your zest and your energy, our people, you know, who have been in the park have expectations about the service and the items that are brought before them. Since you're out of the park, you may not understand that. So it's not just simply that you're bringing things. They have to pass a certain criteria. I think you can appreciate that. We've been doing this for some time, and some of our palettes are, I wouldn't say refined, but there are expectations. So surely you understand that we
Simple
need to.
expectations, just doing some of the bake. I mean, everybody comes together and does this stuff. It shows that we are part of a joint community.
Of course, yes, I will make sure that I will make sure to commune with some of our worshipers later this evening, and we can make more detailed plans.
Well, this is what I suggest. I suggest we have Claudia maybe come and help you, since you're out of the park, to make sure that the the bread is acceptable for our palates. It's a simple thing, and once we're together, I'm sure you will come to appreciate that.
Right?
So I kind of like this idea where maybe you're leaving, right?
Yeah.
And I'm turning to you, Flavius, and I'm like, she's barely still a taster. She's blind. She sees nothing. Like kind of out of earshot, right? But I'm starting to dig into those words. None of this polite out of the park stuff.
I don't think she even knows what those mean. Like, I don't think she even understands what you meant by out of the park.
Yeah, I kind of slipped those in there. Okay, so Flavius kind of nods, and Vesta, you have to see the bigger picture, and it will be difficult, to be sure, but the Praetors don't like what we're doing, and they will have to crack down. And this is the only way we can ensure that that what we want is protected. Surely you can see that. So we are going to have to make some accommodations for our new friend. And I would prefer, if you think about it this way, that it's going to open up some even more new things, and it will widen our own palettes, and we'll be able to experience more with these new partners.
Yeah, possibly new things. But I think under her breath she says, possibly jealous.
Okay, let's cut it there. Great, and I went ahead and made a variant of In the Park. So I'm gonna bounce it over to you, Jean, and so we've kind of started the mixing with the other group and kind of how tumultuous it is. So in addition to thinking about like how we're getting along with the other group, we don't want to insult them too much because they're the ones who are protecting us, but also kind of thinking about like what kind of danger we're in, because right now, like this kind of crackdown is on everyone's mind.
Okay. All right. I had an idea. Now my idea is kind of covered by what you said, so, and by your play, which is fine. Actually, can someone go ahead of me? I need to kind of redo this.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, we can skip you and come back to you. Mikhail, are you okay with going?
Yeah, sure. I can still use the cards from the last act, right? Or how?
I think so. Yeah, that should be fine.
Cool. Yeah, I have an expletive. That's gonna be, and I'm pretty actually decided of what I think I want to have it like waster in for taster.
Oh.
So someone who doesn't eat all the food off their plate.
So are you connecting it to feast?
Yes. I know I said I should connect things to other things, but this was just like too good to let go.
Yeah, that's fine. So just go ahead and throw that up on one of the cards, and then pick your characters for the scene.
Yeah, and I think this this fits pretty well with what we have going on as well, because I think this is probably someone of these new folks not understanding that you're supposed to eat everything off your plate. I think maybe even I I think maybe even let's have it. Because I was always also thinking we also have this like thing going on with being prosecuted, I guess. So
Yeah, we want to make sure to like have that fear of persecution in there. An idea might be like having a character like cussing out one of the worshippers, and maybe somebody saying like, you know, like say like, hey, they're protecting us.
yeah. I think I think we have. Let's see. I imagine maybe having it be like a discussion between some of our characters about them not following our like way of doing things, like they're wasters, and that there's probably, I mean, they are also protecting us, so there's a thing there. Like, are we going to? Yeah. So what are we going to do about that? And I think I want. Well, I guess you're almost in all of the scenes, but let's see. Flavius is probably someone who's there. I think let's have let's actually have Evander there as well. I think it would be interesting to see, and I want to maybe I'm actually going to put Claudia in the scene as well, so I can be in a scene.
I think by this time Evander has jumped ship to like he jumped ship to he like he's in the park now.
Yeah.
Just in time to be persecuted.
I think I imagine it being like a conversation between Flavius and Evander and like Claudia coming in mid discussion. I don't know, like it's a discussion about what to do about these. Like they're not following our traditions, and I don't know. I don't know if that resonates with you, Gene. But I imagine Flavius probably being someone who would have an opinion about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So just to be clear, it's Flavius, Claudia, and Evander.
Yeah.
I think Claudia's going to come in the middle, so it's just Flavius and Evander right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So Flavius is preparing for the feast, and we'll say that Evander has proven himself fairly useful, and he has, some part to play in the feast, and ostensibly they're brought together to talk about that. So, Evander, you've done well in this past season. I've been meaning to talk to you. You seem to have a lot of knowledge of the other beliefs in the city, and I wonder what you think of our new friends.
Well, when I was a blind man in the service of the cathedrals and temples, part of our job was to visit the different districts of the city and bring the less fortunate to church. And I confess to not knowing that much about the feasters. They arrived quite near the end of my service. Yes, I'm afraid. They're quite different, but at the same time, they haven't garnered much attention either.
Well, I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about perhaps the perceptions of our membership. Some of them have questions about you. They're calling you a waster since you came so late, but thank goodness Nona was so well regarded. I was wondering what you thought about it. Have you heard those kind of things? Surely you must have at this point.
Yes, I am no stranger to things whispered while my back is turned. Me the feasters. I know what they say, that we waste, that we do not consume all of our food. And I confess I care not much for the words hurled against me, for I heard much worse in the bowels of the cathedral. Really, you'd be quite surprised at what supposed men of faith say in close quarters. But to hear such nasty words hurled at the feasters when they hide us under our tablecloths as the Inquisition searches the park for us, it's really quite disheartening.
Well, my suggestion is I wouldn't say ignore it, because certainly you know, you do have to push back a little bit. But let's say some of the other members might have stronger opinions, and I don't want this to be a bigger issue. Let's say Claudia's coming in. That he's saying this because he sees Claudia coming into his eye line.
Yeah, and I think she just like our new tasters. They're not eating up. They're wasting the food.
Yeah, that is a problem, and you know, the question is, will we have enough if we're wasting so much now? Also, it presents problems where the Inquisition is you know, is using that in their propaganda against us. But perhaps we can get Evander to work with the new tasters. What do you think about that, Evander?
Yes, I could try. I certainly have mingled with folks such as there before, and although they don't look it, I'm sure they are also quite concerned about the Inquisition. While they say,
go ahead.
While they say they seek to nail us non-believers, it is only so long before the feasters shall be asked to abstain from their feast.
Well, I would like you to have some perspective. I think you, of all people, understand what it is like to be in the park and to be out of the park. So if you could look into it and provide your wisdom, that would be greatly appreciated. Claudia, may I have a word with you for a moment? That'll be all, Evander.
It's quite clear, quite clear.
Yes.
Claudia, it appears that these new friends of ours have been drinking a lot of wine lately. How is our supply?
Yeah, and I think you see Claudia's face. Like, I think she looks down and says, "Well, it's it wasn't a clear harvest this fall. I'm afraid it's getting low."
Well, that's troubling. We may have to water the wine.
Let's cut there. Sorry.
Yeah, I like that's a good place to cut.
Yeah.
Gene, are you ready, or do you want more time?
I think I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna play Evolve, and to zoom back in. And let's zoom in even more. So actually that's not my card, there it is. So evolve, as pressure builds, we change in ways big and small. As we change, as does our language. Make a connection, play on an aspect in the current age, and choose a word from a previous age that make the word, move the word to the new aspect and explain how the word has changed, meaning because of the aspect. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to change tasty. And I need to move to this guy, so I can move. I can't move a card. So
I'll do it.
yeah, can you move tasty to C to believe? This card. And I can't delete this card. Okay. So I think now tasty refers to I think that the people who are in the park all have certain have by now adopted a certain way of eating. The equivalent would be like they use a fork in their left hand and their knife in the right hand, while the new feasters either don't use utensils at all, or they use the wrong hands, or the procedure is wrong. So that's how people know who has been there before the joining. And I think that is it has a connotation too, where now it's a method to like root out any traitors or any people who are working with the Inquisition to bring down the group.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, so if that's fine with everyone, I think we'll bring Flora back in, and we'll have Vesta and Arias. I think what we need to do is I've been in every scene so far, but I think I think the people in the park know that that's the method. But we'll change the word to taste it as well. So if they know that you're, and I could do that change. If they know that by the way you eat, you're old school maybe, and we'll just keep it. I don't know. That it might be a little rough, but I do want to. I think that I think that everyone will have an opinion about it, and with Flora there, they can kind of frame it in a scene. Is that all right?
Yeah.
So I have a little bit covered on my screen with one of the card draw decks. So did any of the words? Are you saying that the word changed here? There. Okay.
Yeah. So Tasty used to be the person who brought someone new in, and now actually it's being used to
just need an insider.
Yes, exactly.
Like us or whatever.
Right. And it's based on how a person eats, just their eating style, their mannerisms.
Okay.
Are you cool with that, Arias?
And I'm not muted anymore, and I'm still cool with it.
Okay.
So, okay. So we're in the park with Flora. Vesta and me.
Yeah, Vesta, can you set up the scene? I think.
Yeah. And I think we see I think we see Flora is, like I mean I'm trying to figure out if we should like set some, maybe she's doing, I would like it to be something around maybe their ceremony, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, here's an idea. Maybe there is a known Inquisitor spy, and they want to determine who it is, and maybe they're testing Flora.
Oh, cool.
Um, I'm trying to figure out how we would do that.
Wow.
Ask her to sample some food. Like here's the food for the feast this week, and they'll just watch her.
Right. I think that's kind of hilarious.
Or maybe we will take Flora in later to the scene, and Aries and Claudia Vesta could debate how to draw her out.
Okay, that's even better. That might be much better. So yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
we see
Flora doesn't necessarily have to be in the scene. In fact, it could just be
right.
Vesta and Arias talking about how they're gonna weed these people out.
That's great. And so I think we see Flora, right? But she's like in the background and she's eating in that manner with the, like you said, in the manner which is of them, right? And I'm leaning over to Aries and just kind of whispering, how I haven't trusted her for a long time now. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, okay, she's not a tasty, but she seems to be, well, she's the leader of theirs, so I guess we have to make nice with her. Or what are your suspicions?
Well, she's not. Oh, waste. I think I think that she may be, not even, who knows if she's even one of them. She may be from, here to spy on us. And,
I mean, come on. Okay, I know there is obviously somebody who's spying on us, but do you think really it's Flora? I mean, she could have just sold us all out. She knows most of the tasties, so.
I mean, look, she's obviously out of the park. I mean, we know who's in the park here, but the question is whether or not she's a tasty. I mean, I think we need to administer some kind of test. Ooh, maybe we can raise some suspicions we have of someone in the group and see what happens.
Yeah, we could talk to her and tell her that we think one of her guys is maybe working for the Inquisition, and then see how she reacts. Is that your plan?
Yes, cool. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, then let's do that.
Clear.
Okay, should we call that scene?
Yeah, I'm just, for time's sake, let's just skip the interrogation part. And do you guys want to decide what happened?
Well, I think we have no clear conclusion. Maybe we think it's not she's not like, oh my god, we have to get rid of this guy, but she's just reacting like a person would who hasn't really a guilty conscience, but we don't know. There is a traitor, so maybe we're still at a bind because she.
I think it's complicated by the fact that, a couple days later, another one of our people stopped showing and has kind of gone missing. Okay. And now, again, we don't know, what the deal is, right? But this person we try to like rat out, like they're still coming, like,
Yeah, okay.
All
so
right.
I have a card that would perfectly tie into the next scene with going with this whole topic. So I think it would be my turn anyway.
Yes, it's your turn.
So cool. So I have a traitor. Haha. I think cool. That works pretty well. And I really have to look at the card again and read it. An act of utter selfishness stuns us all. What do we call the act or the people who commit it? So we can now define a word for traitor, and we might even read them out. I don't know, maybe we could going with the other words we have here, we could go with parkless.
Well, I do want to get away from the food because we are way in the food.
Maybe eyeless, going with like the blind theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would connect this to see to believe anyway, because we're not hunted for the fact that we like to eat food. We're hunted for the fact that we don't honor the gods.
Right.
Or we could just make up some other word.
Yeah, maybe we should come up with just a completely different.
Yeah, I would actually like that.
I mean, I could throw out a suggestion, maybe, just like, because I was thinking of I, so maybe like aya. Aya.
Ire. Maybe.
Let's do it. Let's just go for it.
Okay.
Whatever you think that sounded like, and you could spell it.
I can spell something. So
yeah. You can make it work.
It's the word now. It's an ire. So he will run around and eye us and think he can see, but he can't really. He's just got eyes and no sight really. That's the thing that's behind the word. So I think for this scene, I would like to continue with Vesta and maybe Evander and Claudia, so that they can really talk about Nona being an ire. Flora. Nona's dead. Nona's cellist. Sorry. Yeah, well, so she's probably not the one. Yeah, Flora.
Okay, so you're just going to pick up like just a few minutes later after the interrogation, or a few days maybe after the interrogation.
A few days, right after this other person vanished. Maybe he was called Lucius.
Okay.
Right after Lucius vanished. So.
All right.
I kind of see the scene as maybe we see Flora again, and she's starting to pick up a bit of power, right? So we see her in the back, and she's looking like she's kind of almost like controlling the whole table, right? I mean, she definitely has a lot of her people around her, and we're kind of huddled up, on the side, just kind of watching them be big and showy.
Who starts the conversation? Why don't we say Vesta?
Look at her. She's just pretending like nothing has happened. I mean, I can see it plain as day.
See what?
Our people have gone missing. If it was somebody out of the park, I'm sure she would throw a fit.
You're saying she's an ire.
Well, when you see it as plain as day in front of you,
Perhaps,
what else is there to discuss?
Perhaps it is just a show of confidence so that we do not descend into panic.
I don't think so. Again, think about it. Think if it was one of her people, would that be what she would be doing?
Is it okay if we cut it there, or Claudia, did you
Yeah.
want to say something?
Yeah, I think Claudia says, I think you forget that eyes can also be blind, my friend. She contributed food. She tasted just as we did.
I don't know. I look over there and I still see blind.
Let's cut it there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's your turn, Tomes.
It's kind of funny. I was gonna go with one of these, but it's a little too close to this one. So I kind of like the idea. I have one card which is portmanteau, action. Concepts we hold dear combine. So two words placed into, it's basically two words combined, right? So like smog being smoke and fog or something like that, right? And I was going kind of the route of some of these bad words, combining them, but I don't know. I'm open to thoughts if somebody's got one.
What aspect do you want to connect it to? Is it combining words we already have, or just a new word?
It implies words we already have, but at least a word we have with something else.
Mm.
Ooh, how about yeah, so maybe if we look at like kind of like see to believe, right? We had the word bake, which is you're seeing the labor, right? You're seeing the goods, right? And then we have ire, which is a trader, right? And almost like combining the two to get a word which kind of means like somebody doing shady things, right? Like somebody acting suspicious, right?
I like it.
So what does that sound like?
Sire.
Bakeyer.
Ayake?
What was that? Noella?
Well, I said ayake.
I said Bekai.
I'm gonna go with I'll do the bake in the front because I kind of like the idea that it's like the work stuff comes through. So bakeyer, and it sounds kind of almost like, the sinister work or something like that. Where is this thing here? Text.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like the meaning of it. Like someone who works, and how that destroys the word almost, like we used it.
Yeah. And I think we're almost going to see it being used, not even in the context of flora. I think maybe just two of the characters are kind of like doing something, I don't know, somewhat innocent, like setting up a table or whatever, and one person is, maybe innocently trying to I don't know, do something or has to excuse themselves, you know, because they've been called away, but the other person is like accusing them of doing something shady, like trying to get away from the work they're supposed to be doing or something like that, right? So they're kind of like using this word to say like, you know, what's this kind of shady stuff that you're up to, right? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And
Did you actually write it on the screen?
yes. Do you see it? It's
No, because I'm
kind
blind.
of in bottom left of the big circle
Okay, yeah, there it is.
back here. I'm gonna have it be Flavius and Claudia. And I'm okay. You guys can set the scene. However, it's just more like I want to see like somebody accusing the other of you know acting off, right?
Okay, cool. So we'll say Flavius is going to meet Claudia, and is that you said Claudia, right? Tomes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Flavius is going to meet Claudia at her vineyard,
Mm-hmm.
and so Flavius comes in and says and puts down like an an amphora, you know, in front of Claudia and says, "This wine is unacceptable."
Yeah, I think Claudia is probably bucking, moving like amphoras, and she sighs at that and says, "You were the one who said we had to water it."
You cannot accuse me of being Beckire. You're the one who's doing this. I said water the wine. I didn't say grape juice. This is unfermented.
She I think she walks over to you and like smells the from the amphora and says, "Yeah, I don't taste it much these days."
This is vinegar. We can't possibly serve this at the feast.
It's what we have. All the wasters has drunk up everything.
Well, you're gonna get us some wine, and I don't care how you do it. We need to have wine at the feast.
Okay, let's cut it there. All right,
Okay.
so we're at the end of age 2. So before we move on, does anyone want to discard and draw again?
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes, I do. I give up this card. I'm just gonna where am I gonna put it?
I also got rid of a card.
Yeah. Okay, right.
I want to have another card too.
Oh, nice.
Right? So which aspect do we want to upgrade or evolve?
I think we need to evolve the park. It's becoming
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like that word now means it's like identifying for the group we are.
right. It's no longer the a location. It's the institution itself.
Yeah. We are the park.
So what would that look like? Like what would we call that now?
So you're saying we need to change the word "the park"?
Yes, you have to change the word.
You know how we're saying that there's a line that we're going to cross where the European people are going to be bright and fresh, and the West Coasters are going to be fading. I think we've crossed that line. So,
Yeah.
so you guys are gonna have to carry us on this one.
Oh,
Yeah, I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna, yeah, let's see, maybe we're like Parkers.
Yeah, because that implies that we're actually people, not the place.
The people of the park.
Parkers. Yeah,
I
Parkers.
like it.
and also in reference to that, we do have about 45 minutes left, so let's try and keep these scenes a little shorter, just so we can get done with everything. We can popcorn this time. Kind of whoever wants to go can go. I'm just, wait, before we start, we do have the last, the penultimate transition. We've begun to share spaces with the minority religious group. We and them move freely between their temple and ours, and bonds have formed. What ideas have we adopted from them, and vice versa? And how long has it been between age 2 and age 3? It might be interesting to have it be a little bit longer than last time, so that things have changed.
Yeah.
I think
So
maybe
you,
a year and a half, 18 months.
Yeah, I like that.
Hmm?
So, because we were definitely emphasizing kind of conflict schism at the end, but we do, while that can still be a part of it, we have integrated. We're not dissolving. So, I'm going to go first just because I have an idea that I want to do. And so I want to do taboo, which is what was a previously commonly used word is now only uttered in hushed tones or euphemism. So I'm going to have that be blind, because even when we had out of the park as a euphemism, we still used blind talking among ourselves, but now that we've become much more we're integrated into this other group now. Like, we've become one group, yes, with sub factions, but now we exist together. So out of respect for the other group, we don't use blind anymore. And I think it would be interesting to have see, maybe Aries and Vesta.
Cool. So I guess we're just maybe sitting around after a meal and talking about families and things. And maybe Aries wants to confess that, Vesta, there's this widow with Nona's people, and she's actually quite nice and a good cook. And, I've been widowed myself for a while now, and I don't know. What do you think? Should I go on with this? I think she might like me.
Well, I mean, that's a big step, and
yeah, but I kind of want someone in my life. So even though she's out of the park,
yeah, it's the question is, will you? Ooh, how do I put this delicately? Will you see in the same way?
I don't think I will lose my eyesight. I will still be in the park. Don't worry, Vesta.
No, I trust that you will be able to lead her, right? If
Yeah.
she can't find her way for whatever reason.
Yes, I will try, but I don't know. She might choose to remain someone who needs to be led. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's
Well.
a difficult task you're taking on yourself. But
yeah, but being alone all the time the children are grown, you know.
love is never easy.
Yes. And I think that's the scene.
There's a lot of avoiding using the word blind.
Yeah, I like the whole being around and things will get blurry.
All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be wrong card. Yeah, so I'm playing survival. Using this word dims our chance for survival. Using it has dire consequences, and a train is coming by right now. So let me pause for a moment.
Give us the train. We want to hear trains.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
It's really not as close as it sounds. It just carries.
It doesn't come out that loud on our side.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll just keep talking. Okay, so make a connection, play on a previously defined word, explain why using it makes survival difficult, skip the build a word phase in the conversation, explore the concession made for survival. Finally, tear up the word. Okay, so we're going to play this on tasty. That is now a word that has dire consequences, and we're going to say that that's how the Roman inquisitors have been identifying who to capture. So even the people who do qualify as, established members of, or established parkers now, don't use that term to describe themselves. They call themselves parkers. So
cool.
So we can delete that word. I don't think I have the rights to delete it. So if you delete it, Noella. So the scene is a foolish risk may have outsiders. I think this will be I don't know. Well, the best way to do this is the people who haven't gone yet. So Claudia and Evander and Flavius will all have a conversation about it. We'll say that the five of us are the only people who qualify that are left. So maybe we're all there. And we need to make this decision as a group, not to ever use that term again.
Cool.
Actually, does that apply? It says a foolish risk may have outsiders as the prompt, but I think that's fine, what I just described. Is everyone cool with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I've called everyone here. I've just had some disturbing news. I think that the Inquisition is tracking us in this method. So I've gone ahead and started burning our old menus and our own old membership roles. We can't refer to anyone in the past. Is that clear?
All of our history gone.
Well, not all. We're still here, and the temple appears to be going well. The feasts are still going, which is good. As I understand it, the wine has been a better yield this last season, hopefully, and I think we're okay. But we cannot refer to ourselves as tasties anymore.
But that's who we are. That's who we've always been, Flavius. We can't just take everything away and still expect that we are just, I don't know. I'm not, I don't even know if I can do this. I'm just used to calling you guys my fellow tasties. You know?
I mean, even listen to that word, parkers. What park? We haven't been to the park in how long?
It's our values that are important, not the park, and not even the food. It's our values, and as long as we see clearly, as long as we don't, obscure what we see with, this. idolatry or whatever. That is what's important. But this is about people and staying alive. And it would be even worse if we completely died out. And I think we all agree to that. Evander, you're one of us now. You're once just the new person. What do you think?
Just as you become a taste, he will lose the word.
Maybe no one will remember what even the chair was now that we're younger.
Well,
it will become. If there's no one left to remember it, it would become meaningless anyway.
That's true.
Let's cut there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
I've got an idea.
Cool.
I've got a card which says disuse. A word which was once common is gradually forgotten. Perhaps the reason we spoke about it has faded away, or we've intentionally left it behind. And I'm going to say, in fact, that it is chalice. So although this word, I think, has a certain gravitas for us, I think it's like a very important word because it's a word that's been in our vocabulary for so long and it's had a very strong meaning, right, for the people that we've lost. I think the new community that we're a part of has a different word for death, and their community is bigger and it's kind of enveloped ours, right? And I think it's kind of taken over, that word has taken over for us. So this idea of like an empty chair in a potluck or something that's whatever. That's not, what most of us refer to as death anymore, right?
True. And I think that we've lost so many people. The chair is always out now anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of like, I don't even know if this is a role played scene or not. I kind of imagined Aries, like if you've gotten together with, what were you gonna get together with? Who, like Flora or somebody else? No, somebody from that community.
Somebody from that community, right?
I kind of like the idea of you two are like almost like we see you together in the same home, and somebody comes from the community, like the bigger community, and is, saying something like, "Oh, yeah, have you heard? Yeah, poor, Pontius, yeah, his heart just gave out, and yeah, he's left behind his wife and children. It's sadness." And I don't even think they're talking to you, Aries. They're talking to like your new wife, right, or whatever. And I kind of like the idea of they're talking about death, but they're using this new word that's not our word, right? And we kind of see you there in the, in the background, and maybe you even like looking to the side and seeing like an empty chair in the room, and it's like it kind of like evokes the word, but the word isn't said, right?
Cool. I like that. Yeah, sure. Cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I have one as well.
Sure.
I'm gonna go with label. So using this word has become a badge we wear. It's a point of pride or something we are trying to hide. I think the word, I'm gonna make a connection between Bakeire and see to believe, and that now actually it's a word for someone who works to like promote our cause, which is now being a traitor because we're in the minority. So it's something we don't want to be associated with, but it's like we are definitely now the Bakeires in the community.
So are you saying that it's an honorable trait that people who are that way are about survival and doing things that is required of them to continue?
I think like for us in our small group it probably is, but it's not. It's something we try to hide because it's like we are the ones who are working towards actually following the dogma of seeing to believe.
Okay, cool.
Which is not something that is really acceptable anymore within the bigger community.
So it's still shady, but not to us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think maybe I don't know. I want to how the scene could look. I think let's have it be between Flora and maybe Arius, where I think Flora is accusing Arius of being a Bakire.
And Bakire means to us now something different, like something.
I mean, I think it means
It
the
sounds
same
like
for.
they're the bigger community, and
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, but like the bigger community is using it to mean someone who follows the C to believe. Like we used to use it as like,
Okay.
someone who's
Okay.
acting suspicious.
Okay.
And now they're using it to
Okay.
tell that's us
Oh.
acting suspicious, right?
Oh, okay. Right. I guess it. Get it. Yeah, cool. So, Flora, go on and accuse me.
Oh, Aries, we were so happy to celebrate your joining with your new wife.
Yeah, I was happy too.
In a great worship. But yet I have not seen you at the smaller partakings of worship, and I must worry, and out of concern for your wife, that you still hold on to the old way. And people have been whispering about these bakires that hold on to these old ideas.
Well, you knew that I held on to these old ideas. My wife knows that. We discussed this, and I don't think you really know what that word means.
Aries, you know that we will always be joyful to welcome you into our community, no matter what. All we ask is that you show some worship for the bountiful ones in return.
Well,
maybe we can cut it there.
Yeah. With Aries deeply troubled, with the camera on Aries deeply troubled and slightly defiant face. Cool. So, it's me, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So I got what we pass on. There it goes. And now I can't touch it anymore. So somebody else has to move it. And it's something it's one of our words that I will take and connect to an aspect that we will teach to someone who's not in our community, but will just something we want to keep on, a word that we want to keep alive because it's our word. And I think I want to go maybe with clear, because that's or with Bake. I don't know. What do you think? Which word should we keep? Which word should we teach to our new community guys?
I think I rather like Bakire more because now, now we can own the word. Clear is a little too open.
Yeah.
And Bakire might be something that is significant just to us now. So like the badge of honor kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that better too. Yeah, right. So we'll take Bake. And now I know I can't touch anything. And we'll bring it into the third age. And I think we need a scene where I like that for that to be Evander maybe, and Claudia with him, and one of the outsiders, obviously. So it probably is Nona. Nola, should I play
Flora?
Nona because Flora? I
yes,
confused
you can play her.
Okay, because if you play both Evander and Flora, that's kind of weird. Yeah, we just got the word lost. We just lost the word for dead. So yeah, whatever. So yeah, so Flora is just standing, or maybe she's just coming to Evander, and Gloria is there too, and she says, "Well, listen, I've just been talking to Aries, and he told me that I didn't know what your words meant. So then we had a bit of a row, but I really wonder, what does that word mean, Bake, really?"
So the Bakire or Bake?
Yeah, well, anything really. I think Bakire is that's connected, isn't it?
You see, Flora, it's not like Bakire. It's not just how you appear to others. It's what you do and what you feel in your heart. It's standing up. It's doing what you believe in and standing up for the ideals that we've lived for, that we've all died for.
Oh, okay.
And maybe
Yeah.
maybe you don't understand what it's
I don't.
like. But for us, we've all been bonded together by a doubt, and we've learned to live in it. We've learned to cultivate it, to grow with it.
Mm-hmm.
And being that person, living that life, is being a Bakire now.
Okay. Well, I guess I understand. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's the theme, right?
Yeah, we can cut it there, and
I love it because that word is just like it has
Mhm.
almost no meaning anymore, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
Right.
Like the way it
Mhm.
came out, it was just like, you don't understand. It just means like us.
Mhm.
Like that's all.
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. So now we're entering the legacy now, and so our groups have become fully integrated. Some of us have become religious, while some of them have become cultural atheists. We stand up to the religious institution together. How do we remember the old days? So everyone has a legacy card, and based off of the legacy card,
Oh.
we're each going to give a little epilogue, either for our character or for the whole isolation. Does anybody want to go first?
Oh, well, I've got an idea.
Sure.
So, I'll choose from my options. I'll choose the shame that comes with loss. And I think we will see that Ari's wife is leaving his house, or his new wife, and she is telling him, "If you can't make room for my faith in your heart, then I can't make room for you in mine." And as she wanders away, you see Ari standing there, heartbroken, and everybody in the street where he lives looks at him with this judgment in their eyes, that he was unable to keep his wife with him, and he was unable to change enough to accommodate her, and he feels obviously shame and loss, and he's just this little old man looking sadly out.
Can I go from there?
Yes.
Can I, is it okay if we see what happens after Ares dies sometime later?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
So I think, Ares passes away, and, the community, I mean, he's still kind of part of the community. I think, a little bit ostracized, but they have a little bit of a ceremony for him in the, in the little temple that they have there. And not, nobody really shows up. I mean, not too many of the locals. But I think we see Vesta, and she's also older at this point. And, we just see her like dragging this chair through the street from her house to the temple, and like walks into the temple and just kind of like drags it into the middle of the room, and just leaves it there. And it kind of makes a little bit of an interruption, and some of the people are kind of like turning. They're in the middle of some prayer or something, and she's screeching this chair across the stone ground, but she puts it there, and I think she just leaves it there and walks away.
Great.
And that's my card was a ritual for the dead.
Yeah, I think I'll go from there. I think you see Claudia. She's sitting on like a street corner, much thinner than you remember her, and also in like very dirty clothes. And I think you see her with like this piece of bread, looking at this piece of bread that she has, and then there's someone next like there's some other people around her as well that also looks pretty poor, and she takes the bread and makes it into like a piece for everyone, and gives them. Yeah, and I think you see this this person going past, and like I think as he passes, he spits on her and calls her a backire. Yeah.
Wow, this is super dark. I will go next. Out of the ash, a seedling sprouts. We'll take a couple years after that. I think we see Flora's daughter, and she's teaching in a school. The temple no longer exists. It's now become a school, and she's about to teach a class. And all the trappings of the feast rites are gone, and it's basically a learning institution now. And the chair is still there. It has never been moved from where it was dragged last. And Flora's granddaughter, or daughter rather, begins to explain the significance of the chair, and begins to teach the class. And that's me. So Evander, you're last, right?
Yep. So Vander's an old man now, and he's probably, middle-aged during the game. So he's quite an old man now, and he's walking down the street with a grandchild and one holding his hand, and he looks up at the sky and says, "It's quite a clear day, isn't it?" So that's
So cool.
the end of our game. Thank you for playing with us.
Awesome. Thanks so much for facilitating.
cool.
That was great.
Yeah, it was great. I loved the chair at the end.
Yes.
It's weird. The chair made it all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brought it back.
Yeah, we forgot the word, but never the whole chair thing. So,
You would think the chair wouldn't survive, but the word would, right?
So
Yeah.
if you guys have a little time, I would like to maybe do some roses and thorns and get a little feedback.
I've got a few minutes before
Yeah,
I crash out.
If anyone needs
Yeah.
to run at any point, that's fine too.
yeah, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fine.
So kind of roses and thorns. Kind of roses is what you really liked about the game, and thorns are things that could be improved.
Sure, I'll start with a thing. For me, roses, like I always, and like I've noticed the pace of the game does this, right? Where the setup and then like the first age is definitely like almost the majority of the game, and then it really starts to accelerate right, for the second part, especially that third age. But like every single time I've played, that third age is where it just kind of like punches you a little bit in the stomach, right? Like a lot of the, and maybe that's just the way that the game is set up, where, you know, yeah, the communities builds and then kind of like falls apart, right? And so there's always that little bit of like that dark sadness at the end,
Yeah.
where you're having to let go of this thing. And so, you know, like I feel like, you know, we had a great little session here, and you know, it got us back to that point, and I kind of forgot like how it hits you at the end there. So I really enjoyed kind of seeing that again, and getting to enjoy it with you guys. As far as Thorns, well, like I think that some of the Roll20 stuff like
Yeah.
could be a little bit cleaner almost. Like I kind of almost enjoyed, I think, doing it with Garrett's system the first time. I thought it was a little bit easier, even though the problem with that system is you couldn't randomly draw cards. So
Yeah.
we just had like a pool of cards, and we would just choose from that pool. And I did like how you were able to kind of, it seemed easy from my end, of course, getting drawn the cards. So
Yeah, that's the real boon of the Roll20.
yeah. But yeah, I think that's it for me.
Great.
Yeah, I go next. So yeah, I like this game, of course. It's a game about language, so I would love it. It was fun this time. I like the characters. I like the community. I like the whole idea. I like the way we managed to accelerate at the end a bit because of the time restraints. So it was pretty well paced. I like what Thomas said about this whole thing always going so very dark at the end. The first time we played it, we were at a boarding school, and it was actually quite freeing. It was a relief when the community had to disband because these kids weren't very happy there. But okay, it went pretty dark in the end because some of these kids didn't end so very well. As for Thorns, well, I think considering we were playing an online game with cards and drawing, this went amazingly well. It works better if you have the cards at your hand, but, well, I think, yeah, that's a very minor thorn, and one I'd be willing to prick myself on every time I play this, so yeah.
All right, I'll go next. This was my first Gauntlet game and first time playing Dialect, so it was really cool. I appreciate you teaching it to me, and everyone is great. We had some really great stories going on. It surprised me in so many ways. I came into it thinking it was going to be this kind of game, but it turned out to be a very different game altogether. So that was great, and I'm very happy this is my first game in the group. So thank you all very much. Thornwise, I had a disconnect with the setting. I was thinking this was going to be heavy into the religious issues, and whether it's going to, like if we were going to be very stoically in that vein, but it turned out we were pretty much our own religion anyway, right?
Yeah.
It didn't actually come into the story much that we are, different from the Dionysian, the feasters or whatever. So that's a hard thing though to codify into a scenario. So that is a huge challenge, and it is to your credit that you're trying it and trying to put it into like real game terms. But otherwise, I'm super thankful I was part of it. So thank you very much.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm going last then, I guess. So I like the game as well. I'm super happy I got to play Dialect. It was pretty great. I definitely want to play it again. Maybe not at 7 in the morning, because that
Yeah.
was a little bit of a struggle for me to keep attention. I figured out. So, but it's the first time, so I guess I know that now. But definitely worth it still. And I also for the I don't think that's as much of a thorns as a feedback for you creating the scenario. I think a little bit of the same as what Gene was saying. I think it's very hard to make a game that's both about being non-religious and also integrated into a religion, because it's very like, I think the game is, as I said, or the scenario as it is now is much more about like how internal codes kind of get pressured when someone else comes in. I'm not sure if it would turn out a different way if you played it differently, maybe, but it definitely needs more direction if you want it to be about that. Like every time, like if you want to design it for that experience, it probably needs some more guidance in a way. I don't know how, but yeah. But I super liked it anyway. So, I mean, it can also be that experience you designed it for if you wanted to, because it's pretty cool. So, yeah.
Great.
I also like the Roman stuff because I don't get to play enough of that. So that was great too.
Well, thank you all so much. I'm going to stop the broadcast.